Okay, good day, everybody. My name is Nicholas Mujah. I am the Secretary General of the Sarawak the Iban Association based in Sarawak, Borneo. And I'm also the permanent indigenous people of FFC International. And at the national level, I'm also the technical working groups and standard committee for Malaysian Palm Oil Certification Councils. And I would like to share my thoughts and within my presentation to highlight and to address some of the issues of the indigenous people, especially in Malaysia, and focus on Sarawak, on the issues that being faced by the native in Sarawak under the development activities. So my topic today, or the issue that I want to talk with participants today, is very much focused on native customary rights. Land conflict is a legal issues. Yeah. So hence, here's my first slide. You can see the maps of Sarawak, and you can see that every inch of the land of Sarawak has been leased as a concessions area, either for planting of forests, palm oil plantations, and any other industries. But on my right, that reflects court cases that very much concur with the concession areas. So we have more than 400 cases in Sarawak as of at present that have been going through the legal system from the High Court until the Upper Court of Malaysia. Yeah. So this is the scenario of land conflicts in Sarawak with plantation development. Okay, my next slide, second slide is, I'm talking about the indigenous populations in Sarawak. We have 26 native or indigenous ethnic group in Sarawak. And I don't have to mention all the names are there. You know, I'm from the Ibans and goes until all the others. So on the left side is the map of, so that you really know where I am from, come from, and I'm from Sarawak. There are, I want to clarify that Malaysia, we have two so-called mainlands or islands. So the left, we call it the Peninsula Malaysia. And on the right of my side, we have the, we call it the East Malaysian state, consists of Sarawak and Sabah. Yeah. So just to make everybody know where I'm speaking now. Okay, look, talking about the livelihood of the indigenous people in Sarawak, the peoples are very much interlinked with the surrounding forest landscape that cohabit with the livelihood and the activities. You know, on the left, we use our forest land as our spiritual life, and we have our own system of monitoring our forests. We set our own forest guards, or forest monitoring groups. And of course, within the livelihood of the indigenous people, we also do documentations of our territories that we have, and including when we were in the colonial government. And I would like to talk to you about how we manage our forests in a very sustainable way. We are very so-called eco-systematic livelihoods, and we use only what is needed for the families. And we will take care of our river system, make sure it is clean, and we will utilize the traditional way of trying to get food. For example, we use a special tree latex for our huntings, and very much we will hunt what is needed and the size that is acceptable to our consumptions. And here I would like to show to all participants in this forum that the activities, how the daily life being practiced in our system. And we still use very much firewood for our cookings. And we also utilize only special trees for special purposes. For example, in this case, we make paddle. We use only special kind of trees for that, not any other trees. Yeah, and we also utilize our land, or ecological farming, we call it, and we plant what is needed in a very minimal clearance, and also we use what we use it we used to call shifting cultivation. And we use also a very selected trees for the boat, for the making of boats, and we harvest it in a very minimal destructive way of reducing damage to the ecosystem and the trees. And we also use our water system in a very micro and a very systematic way, how to make a reservoir for the consumptions of our communities. And within the trees, we are having a multicultural civil culture of plants for the needs of the communities. So the plants, for example, bamboo can live in twin with a trees. So we don't damage when we preserve everything within there. And now I would like to talk about the governance systems, especially in Sarawak at the state level. So if you're talking about the right of indigenous people, principally it's been enacted in laws that the law of Sarawak recognize the existence of the indigenous people, recognize the right of the indigenous people to their customary land. And I can show you that a specific example of the land code that recognize our land is in section 5 of the Sarawak Land Code that recognize our right and how we create our right within the jurisdictions of our state law. Of course, we have to, by the way, this is a colonial law that restrict or try to plans or try to where we should occupy or how we can create our right. Of course, by basics, by benchmark, we can occupy the land as our native customary right land when we have been settled there before 1958. In another models or another types that how we can have right over land if we have planted fruit trees within the land. Of course, we will have to have our burial sites. And again, if we have used that area as our jungle tract to our farms. And of course, that we stay there by custom and practices. And I would like to bring to everybody attentions that what are the other legal instruments that protect the right of the indigenous people in Malaysia, especially in Sarawak. Besides the state legislation or the state law, we have what we call federal constitutions, which cover all people in Malaysia, and is for the indigenous people. We are being reflected in the Article 161A, where that our right as native and our right to our customary right are being safeguarded. And of course, there are also international instruments that has been ratified by the Malaysian government to be the law of the countries. That is the United Nations Declaration Right of the Indigenous People that been ratified among the 146 countries in September 2007. Hence, the article very explicitly, especially like Article 25, and refer to people in the land that we have the right of a spiritual relationship traditionally on occupied to land, territory, water, coastal area, and resources. And second article says that we have right to own, to develop, control land, territories, and resources by way of a traditional occupation. And of course, a very important element within the UNDRIPS, right of indigenous people, is that under Article 32, the state shall consult and cooperate with indigenous people in order to obtain their prior informed consents before any project or the land or territory are being used. But somehow there is a very sad situation in the case referred to the case, the right of indigenous people over land in Sarawak. So I would like to address the case of the Tuarumasanah case that's been as a case law that prohibit the native to their native customary rights. So the issue in this case is very simple. The judge agree that there is a customary rights among the indigenous people, especially in regards to their so-called territorial domains or the Pulau Galau, and so on. But they also said that, well, it has no force of law for a very simple reason. In order for a law for these people to exist or to be enforced, it has to be legally enacted. but somehow there is no specific written word within our federal constitution or our state legislation that say that our custom and practices are being codified. So hence that makes the rule says that our traditional practices has no force of law. Hence we have that relieve our right from our right to our traditional land. But our struggle still continues. We are still looking for a good legislation, good SOP to recognize our rights. For the benefits of everyone from the perspective of the association, the Sarawak Dayak Iban Association, and in person who's been in charge or being instructed to take care or to look after the right of Jewish people in Sarawak. We, as of now, we are very frustrated with our law system in Sarawak, with our governance in Sarawak, who are not recognizing our rights. So now we are pursuing on other platform. So we address our right, seeking for recognizing of our right to our land through the petitions to many departments, example, the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, and also the sustainable mechanisms that has been so-called agreed by the Malaysian government, like the RSPO and MSPO, to address the legal issues that are being pressured against the indigenous people. And I would like to bring to the attention of everyone that in Malaysia, especially in Sarawak, there are very common and very well-known players in the land grabbings in Sarawak, especially for the forestry activities, names such as the Xinjiang groups, the Samling groups, the Riminan Hijau groups, the KTS groups, the WTK groups, the Ta'an groups, and the Plitas groups are all very important players in land grabbing, whether by they themselves or through their subsidiary companies to harass the people and to grab land from the indigenous people in Sarawak. And likewise, also from the agriculture plantation, names are very similar, and often the same big conglomerates that also use the land for agriculture in the name of development. But the only difference is that in the plantation companies is the most treat or the most concern that indigenous people are facing now, because agriculture development displaces people from their very own land. And the most common players are the PLITA. LCDA is a government agency supposed to help the communities, but in fact, they grab the land from the communities. And the big names such as the SEMDABI, the IOI, the Tabung Haji, Bosted, Salkra, Falkra, Felda are also the government agencies Rimunan Hijau, KTS, Semeling, and likewise the WTK. So, despite all the legislation, the sustainable mechanism are in place, but the conflict still persists and still very rampant. So I would like to bring to your attention what are the sources of this land conflict. Definitely, it's well to the political masters and also agreed among the concession holders, and also there are a lot of deceptions transpire or intertwine within this, from the applications of the leaseholder until into the development and the implementation process. So there's a lot of political intervention within there. And what the major violations of the compliance of all these sustainable mechanisms and the legal procedures are that there are good regulation, good procurements being provided, but many times they are being abused by the people and the entrepreneurs implementation. And it's very clearly in terms of the procurement, for example, the condition in giving the provisional lease to a company. One very clear SOP or procedure is that there shall be there shall be a participatory mapping on each land that being leased. Hence, any encumbrances, it should be excluded from the activities. However, this never happened. And of course, bribing the local chief is very common because this is the weak point among the news people being poor. And again, there's non-obligation from the state of the FPIC processes. Despite Malaysia has ratified the Convention of the Right of the Indigenous People in 2007. And it's a very common knowledge, corruption among the officials in the government agency is rampant and is a non-secret. And the next is, yes, I will so-called a very systematic policy deceptions against the indigenous people. Look into the Sarawak Land Court, High Court, that been enacted by the British government. It was very clear that rights of indigenous people are being protected. But since then until today, there are more than tens of land amendments to our land law. And every amendment that been happened, it decreases or diminish the right of the indigenous people, despite it's all being created. I can quote one example. In 2000, the Land Court Section 5 have been amended, where first one is that the traditional and practices in creating right has been deleted. Secondly, the traditional way of inheriting land are being deleted, where the word acquired has been replaced by the word created, which is a very fundamental traditional way of inheriting properties among the indigenous people. So I would like to share a little bit of recommendation. I mean, it can be a model of solution to resolve the conflict, if not restitution, but at least in a win-win situation. So Malaysia has agreed to the sustainable approach in whatever development. So there are many mechanisms now in place. For the forestry, Malaysia has obliged or has formed a new mechanism. They call it MTCS, Malaysian Timber Certification System, and the Forest FSC, Forest Steward Council system. And for the oil palm plantation, we have adopted a sustainable approach or practices in the form of RSPO and MSPO. So if there is a goodwill from both parties, especially from the government and the companies who are the players in terms of plantation, a win-win situation can be achieved, because all these mechanisms inscribe or approve that by recognizing the right of the indigenous people and use and apply the UNDRIP, which is a very useful instrument to protect the livelihood of indigenous people, for a win-win solution on whatever development within their territories. Yeah. Before I end, I would suggest that it is very crucial that in order to make the indigenous people very inclusive and together toward development, I think it is a shared responsibility among the consumers, the environmentalists, and the social sympathizers in order to make the world in peace. Thank you for listening.